Hey everybody, it's the Mad Master here. I'm just in the middle of getting my enormous amount of material possessions unboxed and put away in some fashion. Um, it's been pretty insane, honestly. As you can see, I did a pretty good job at least. Oh yeah, that's where the things start to fall apart. But I'm putting those boxes in this huge attic that I have in this apartment, which is almost like a condo-esque apartment. I will be doing a tour, virtual tour, virtual Zoom, COVID. Sorry, just a little snarky right now. Um, be doing a virtual tour probably in a month or two once everything is put away in a somewhat organized fashion. I mean, I have my bookshelves, and everything's just kind of a mess, but I have all these Metallica records up there and stuff, and I have another probably equal amount of stuff that I have to put away with that I've already done. So it's kind of insanity. Just a result of having a very cheap living situation before, where I was paying $400 a month for a attic room. Now I'm paying $750 a month plus electric and internet. So it's going to be an austerity challenge, but not as bad as it's been in my life. Because at one time in my life, I was actually making $9 an hour plus a little bit of unemployment at a job. I'm making far more now, so it's not gonna be as bad as that. But when I was eating a lot of Taco Bell, but I'd eat like one meal a day. And actually, that was kind of a good period of time in my life. Honestly, it sounds really weird, but I was working like 28 hours a week, and then getting unemployment. This is back in the day. This captioning job that I used to have. It's kind of a good time. I can't describe why. It's just like everything was kind of more pure in my life, and then I had a very good situation with the ladies the next year after that. It was like going pretty well. Just being totally honest, a lot of memories, So the austerity isn't always a bad thing as long as I, clean things up and I'm a better person as a result of it. Now, spending a lot of money as I was is not sustainable in the long run. It's just a ridiculous thing that I was doing. My lifestyle needs to change, and it will. It has to change. Like it needs to change. Forced. Oh, this chair is getting so loud. Finally found my webcam, so I'm going to be able to do more traditional videos once I get this all fucking... I'm not even going to show the other side of the apartment. It's a huge room. It's bigger than my attic room. It's probably twice the size. And then there's an attic upstairs that I have access to that for storage, where I'm going to be putting all my cardboard boxes. So I'll be doing a tour once everything is better. I was just watching this tour of this one astrologer on YouTube and her apartment in New York, and it was pretty awesome. I like watching people's tours of their cool apartments and stuff, so I'll be doing that once I get everything up and running here, and I get more furniture and stuff too, because I'm gonna have to get some. I just got so much stuff. It's overwhelming. I'm gonna be working on it all day, but I figured I'd do a couple videos before I get some of the hard work out of the way, which I have actually done a lot of work and put up a lot of posters and stuff, and I did all these bookshelves and these cases and stuff, and it's going whoa, it's going pretty. Got the first 4 Metallica up there too. You can see that. It's kind of funny. Got Garage Days too, which I don't think fits up there because it original Garage Days revisited. So it's kind of the whole thing is like to have all 4 Metallica albums up, the first 4 Metallica, which to me represents their best part of their career. I'm just gonna put this down and see if it stands up. Shit. that's, to me, that's like the apex of all that they did with regards to their career. So I just thought it would look cool. Because last year, let me get more in the camera. Last year, I got back into Metallica for some odd reason. I don't know why, but it was like October, November, I was starting to get. It was funny because like September, October, I got into like investigating the CBGB's bands from back in the day, and I got into like Johnny Thunders and stuff and stuff like that. I read this book, Please Kill Me, by Legs McNeil, not Gillian Flynn. I forgot her last. I'd have to look it up, but Gillian Flynn is another writer I actually do like. She wrote Gone Girl. I don't know why I said that in my other video, but I got into some of that stuff, mainly Johnny Thunders. All the other bands from that scene I like, but like Johnny Thunders and the Dead Boys, Johnny Thunders bands and the Dead Boys, and the Void. Richard Hell was okay. His voice is kind of annoying. I read about all that stuff, and the Stooges. Of course, I was already into the Stooges and stuff like that. I got into then for some reason I got into this weird, and also I got into the Sex Pistols again, and I bought their Spunk demo, which in some ways is it's somewhat better than Nevermind the Bollocks. Now, Glenn Matlock's bass lines on that album are fucking amazing, like very busy and very kind of advanced for punk music, pretty much. I mean, it's not shred or anything or progressive or something, but it's definitely more along the lines of something that would be very complicated for a punk band. So, but then he left, and then he did Nevermind the Bollocks, and I think Steve Jones recorded the majority of the bass lines, and then Sid Vicious did one or two songs. I can't recall. Bodies and Holidays in the Sun, I believe he plays bass on that. Sid Vicious. I got into some Public Image Limited albums too around that time, and so forth. And then, some reason, November, December, I got back in Metallica, and one of the things was watching the one video, because I had seen that, that's what got me into Metallica originally, back in the day, and there was this weird thing that happened though in November, December of last year. I don't know if it's related to what we're going through right now, because it was just so weird. Because, first of all, not that this is related, but November, December, I was sick like 3 or 4 times, which is really strange. And there was one thing that I know what the cause of that was, or November, December, January, I was like sick 3 or 4 times. I know what the cause of one of those things was, and then I know, but there's a few things that that are mysterious, especially about the January one, which everything in January seemed to like point to really bad things happening, and I don't know if I believe that this was a premonition, but I'll just describe what happened. So my relationship was on the fritz, and I was feeling like this really weird energy, like, oh, I just want to get out of this thing, and like I just felt really crowded, and I think this has to do with like attachment styles and all that stuff. And I've done like a lot of investigation on that this year. So I'll actually be going back into that, because I'm going to be finishing some workbooks on that. Because I don't, because I'm about to embark on like, and I know it sounds like a really bad time to do this, but it is what it is. I mean, I like my date a little over a month ago now. You're able to meet people during this whole thing. It's more difficult and it's more controversial to some, but it is possible. And I need to shave better too. Oh my God. Oh, I was just trying to I was trying to trim stuff. I might just shave this whole thing off for a while. I took some pictures yesterday with my jacket and my top hat and stuff, but you're able to still meet people during this whole thing. It's not as risky as like going to big crowded places and stuff. It's not, I don't see anything wrong with it. I mean, my grandfather was born in the middle of the Spanish flu. He was born in August 1918. And there were a lot of people just fucking and doing all their back then. I mean, shit. Hey, even Fauci said something about it back. Oh, yeah, he did. But anyways, I don't give a fuck. Whatever. Fuck that bullshit. I'm trying to get away from the pandemic stuff too. In the next, probably the next. I might do one more Rufus McDoofus video and then call it. I'm thinking that right now because I'm just so sick of it. Maybe one predictions video. I don't know. I go back and forth with it, but at least I'm trying to intersperse more stuff about other subjects now than I was for a while, and I feel better about that. And maybe weaning myself off of doing videos like that is a better option, but I'm not sure at all. So one of the things that though about this whole thing in January of December last year, January of this year, 2020, was I was really sick, and I just felt like shit a lot, and I felt really depressed, and I had a lot of seasonal depression, which for some reason, I don't know if it's just like, I still feel it. I'm more angry now than depressed, like angry at stuff. I don't get like as weird about what's going on as I'm just more angry, like about the hypocrites and the lockdown hypocrites and stuff, and like I've done videos about. I'm more angry than depressed this year, but I felt really constrained and contracted, like starting, maybe late November, early December of last year, and then going through, the breakup and stuff. Felt really weird. Something was not right. Something was false in my head about everything that was going on, including not only my relationship though, just everything. I just felt this weird vibe, this weird energy, and in December and November, December, January, late November, December, January, I started to get really interested in like the late 19 teens. I'm not talking about dating that. I'm just saying 19 teens. I'm sorry. I just like I just got back from role playing last night, and I make all sorts of dirty, weird, inappropriate jokes all the time there. So and yes, we are doing it in person, but everybody assesses their own risk. And there's been these articles about the spectrum of social distancing and all this stuff now. And there was a New York Times article about that. Well, people aren't going to do it all the time, so you have to assess your own risk. And that Dr. Mike actually used that article as an excuse. If you watch, I don't know if it was Grande's or this other guy's video about that, but it's true. Like, people are finding excuses to break the rules. Other people, like, there's some people that are role playing with us they're not role playing with us right now, that role play with us that are not, that are like, they're literally like hunkering down. There's one in particular that I had a really big falling out with, and he didn't want to, he's kind of, and some of the other guys in the group are like mad at him because he was just like being such a dick about it. Like, he wouldn't talk about certain subjects, and he just thought, I'm being an asshole and all this stuff. And, because I was like, he refused to come to role playing because we wouldn't wear masks in role playing. And the head of the group, who owns, the house with his wife, is like, well, it's people's choice if they want to do that. And he got kind of mad, he quit, and he might come back eventually. I don't know. But he was, really weird about stuff and kind of negative towards me, and people are mad about that. Do I think it's rightfully so? I don't know. People all have these different things, the way they're reacting to all this stuff. But anyways, back to my story. December of last year, January. So I was watching a lot of stuff. Like, I watched Johnny Got His Gun, and I was obsessed with the years like 1917, 1918, 1919. Like, that period of time just like was really interesting to me. I was feeling like the vibe of that era for some weird reason, like World War One and like all this stuff. And I was really sick, and I felt like when I was watching Johnny Got His Gun, I was really sick. And this is when people think that I had COVID. that period of time when I watched that, because like some of my family members and some of my even my friends aren't sure, but it's it's weird because like I was watching this and I was like feeling like, if you know the story of Johnny Got His Gun, it's about this guy that loses his sight, his hearing, his and his limbs, and he's like in World War I, and then he has this way he communicates with Morse code with his head bobbing up and down, and this nurse feels sorry for him and finally figures it out, and then all this stuff happens. I'm not going to give away the rest of the story, but I was like I felt I felt like that guy in the like watching that movie, and I just like got really weirded out by it, and it was just like, oh my god, this like death and more mortality and morbidity like was extremely high in my head, like just this really gross like it was really weird because I got really sick and I felt like, well, if I die, I die. And I never felt like that before in my life, It was really strange. It was really scary. I don't feel like that right now. Don't get me wrong. But when I was sick, I was like, oh yeah, death, whatever. Apathetic, aloof about death. It was really strange because I just had this really weird fever and stuff. Body aches, my limbs and my breathing was labored. It was just really strange. So getting out of that, I was still in this really deep depression, and I was like, this is what happened. So I started watching these dating videos because my ex canceled on me one time, and I was like, oh, this must mean that she wants to get out, she's losing interest. So I'm going to watch some like dating videos about this. And like, there was this one guy who I still like a lot of his videos, but it was, oh my God. One of the things that he said was like, oh, just like, ignore, or trying to get their attention. Like if they're losing interest, just back off. But I took that as in back off for like weeks. So she would call me when I was sick, probably every other day or every day. She was very sweet about it. And I'm just like, because I was sick for like a week and a half or 2 weeks or something. That's why people think it was the virus, which I don't know. I have no idea. I almost had an antibody test in the summer, but I don't think it would have picked it up. So I don't know. Who knows? And I know people that were diagnosed positive that had tests that were negative. So it's who the hell knows? Who knows with this whole thing? But I felt this weird vibe. I felt this really constrained energy, and then finding out that all this stuff was happening. I mean, I don't know what I think about this, but all this astrological stuff was happening that would never happen for 20 or 200 or 800 years. All this stuff all together, and starting in January 12th, and then January 20th was when I last saw my ex-girlfriend, and we went to the show. I was feeling this really bad panic anxiety. I couldn't even stand in the show because I do have like some issues with like agoraphobia and like a little bit of claustrophobia kind of stuff. Also like depersonalization, derealization stuff with, going to new places and stuff. We were in this place in Chicago seeing this band. I forgot I have their album somewhere. It was kind of this pagan, like tribal band, it was cool, but I was having all these weird thoughts and stuff, and I just went out and sat down out of the hall that they were playing, and it was a really weird situation. And then, I didn't text her until like 4 or 5 days later, and then I was like feeling like something was going on, and then I called her, and then she broke up with me on that day, and it was pretty bad. And I never felt so devastated from a breakup before. I mean, and I just don't know why. I still don't know why I felt so devastated. It was a weird time to be dumped, I guess. Did I deserve it? I guess so. I mean, I always had, like I said, I think I said in a previous video, I always had one foot out of the door. I always was kind of weird about it, aloof. But I don't know if that's just because that's how I am in relationships now or not, because I guess in a certain way I do like to detach and be, be like that. But, I had a lot of doubts and stuff about things and just certain things that weren't going well. But once the rug was pulled from under me, everything changed. And a lot of people talk about this, like a lot of the dating psychologists and gurus and stuff. They talk about, like, if you get dumped, you all of a sudden even if you were like thinking about breaking up at one point, your whole thing switches, and it did. But it switched in an extreme direction. And I'm not going to go into all the stuff that I got into with regards to that. Well, I already have in some other videos, but it was tough. So that's how my year began. The year of 2020 began with basically me being super sick for like 2 or 3 weeks. Like, just it got better and then it got worse, and it wasn't bad all throughout. Like, it was about a week where it was really bad, and then it was just kind of like and I was sick a bunch of times, late fall, early winter of 2020, or 2019/2020. So that was bad, and I felt like shit, and I felt this weird sense of dread and doom ahead, honestly. And the reason why I bring this up is because I don't know if there's a capability of people to kind of feel things that are coming in down the pipeline, but I don't feel that same way now, by the way. I don't feel like I'm skeptical but optimistic. But at the point in 2020, early 2020, where there was stuff was happening, was just like I was obsessed with the years 1917, 1918, which was really weird. It was just like, oh wow, that's really fascinating. And I don't know if it was because that movie 1917 came out, and I was watching Johnny Got His Gun because of Metallica, because they bought the rights to the movie at one point, which is really interesting. Because I guess no one owned the rights, and they wanted to use it for their video and all that stuff. It was kind of the beginning of the corporatocracy of Metallica, of course. But those years kind of began after that, because that was a commercial ascent into creative descent and commercial ascent, which usually happens with musicians, unfortunately. So yeah, it was really weird. But what was I saying? A similar thing happened in 2001. It was late summer, and I was just like, a lot of stuff was, my life wasn't bad or good. I wasn't dating anyone at the time. So, as a matter of fact, well, I hate to say this, but I hadn't really ever seriously dated anybody at that point. But so it was a weird time, though. Like, I felt like something was happening, something was coming down the pipeline, and there was this weird time. If you know the restaurant, which they still have, it's like a chain. It's like Denny's. It's called Perkins. They still have a few out there. They closed a lot of them, I think, the last 2 years. Not only this year, I mean, like, last 2 years. There's an American flag outside, and me and my friends used to go there. Me and some of my best mates back then used to go there and talk for hours and drink coffee, eat pie or whatever, or fries or whatever. So we went to Perkins this one time. It was like early September, and things were starting to get darker, starting to get darker outside and all this stuff. So I saw the American flag, and it was like, I'm gonna get a piece of paper towel. Oh no, I'm not gonna use that one. I'm gonna use this. It's like a poster thing. So poster tape thing. Okay. So this is the flag right here, right? Say there's a flagpole. I'm gonna use this Mickey D signed drumstick, by the way. Let's check it out. It's signed by Mickey D. I'm trying to find the other one, unpacking. So this is an American flag at Perkins, right? The flag was like all like all bent and like all like, it was like if a person literally did this, you know. So I had this weird feeling of dread, like something was about to happen, and I took that as like maybe something was about to happen to America. I mean, there was like it was like, I mean, it sounds like reading tea leaves or some shit, or seeing shapes and clouds, but it was really weird. This feeling inside, this dark feeling. So on the day of 2001, or day of 2000, day of 9/11, 2001, I used to take the bus to work, and it sounds weird, but like I had tapes because people were still using tapes somewhat, on Walkmans, and I had the first Wasp album, which actually I also have right here. Hey, that's ironically right here, Wasp's first album, and it has a song called "The Torture Never Stops," which is track 11. And I don't know if it was just because of nausea, because I used to drink this coffee and like sometimes I wouldn't eat breakfast and I had this weird like gut rot from it. It's really gross. And I was like listening to Wasp and I had this weird feeling like something's wrong. And the Torture Never Stops came up. And I can listen to it now. Like I'm not like triggered by it or anything. It's not a song that triggers me. I just think the album kicks ass all the way through and I listen to it a lot now. But like when on 9/11, when I heard it, I was like, something doesn't feel right, and it was just I had a weird feeling, and I don't know if I was like, am I sick? Why is "The Torture Never Stops" like making me feel sick? Because the lyrics are, it's more BDSM, but I mean, obviously what happened afterward was there was a lot of torture, with the 9/11 stuff and the Patriot Act and the Guantanamo Bay, which is kind of weird. So I don't know why. I've never actually fully explained the story. I mean, I think it's kind of crazy, but I wanted to talk about it anyways because it's kind of fun. It's kind of fun talking about this stuff either way. So I went to work, and it was a call center, and there were no calls. And then, got a couple of calls, and someone said, "Oh, a plane hit the World Trade Center." I was like, "Oh wow, that hasn't happened in a long time." Like I thought it was like a little tiny little plane, like, like I think the Empire State Building had one hit it, and it was just like no big deal. It's just a fire on a couple floors and stuff. I thought it was just like some little prop plane kind of thing. I don't know why it would be in downtown New York, like the air. I mean, just naivete of being a young person back then. So that was like, it was just weird. It was a really spooky day. So this is what I did. So I went to a comic book store because they let us out of work early because we weren't getting calls. We're going home, and so I took the bus and I went to a comic book store and bought like an early Spawn trade paperback, but it was on the news. I was like, oh shit. And George Bush Jr. came out and said, all his patriotic jingoist bullshit that he used to say. So I was just like, and I think I bought a tape too, and I can't remember if I did, but I was like, I went home to my apartment and I was like, holy shit, this is crazy. And then, family members were freaking out. And I used to go to this, because I was worse with money back then than I am even now. Believe it or not. I went to a check cash place, but everything they took like 45 minutes because they had to go through all this stuff because of the 9/11 thing, and people thought the world was going to end and it was going to be World War III and all this stuff. But there was a lot of weird people were acting really fucking crazy. Like people actually thought that this was the end. Like, and I know it was a big deal, to a lot of people in New York and stuff, but in the Pentagon and, or Washington, D.C. But it was, I mean, people were kind of going a little too, like, because I had to reassure a family member, like, no, there's not going to be any. I don't think there will be any more, hits. I think it was done. Like after a couple hours, there were no other planes that hit anything. So I was like, no, it's over. They did it. They accomplished what they wanted to do. So it was really weird because I felt those premonitions before, and I felt like even though this was before smartphones, so you listen to your Walkman, and I don't even think I had like a radio on it. I was just listening to my Walkman, and listen to the first Wasp album. It's really strange. Ironically, Blackie Lawless wrote a couple songs about 9/11 later on. Like he was really critical of the Bush administration and stuff, which is kind of cool. Like he became more of like a kind of a Christian Republican later, but like at the time, like 2004, I forgot the album names. I have them all. I actually bought all the Wasp CDs a couple years ago. I was just like, yeah, I just wanted to, because like I might be doing a video about this, but I think like Wasp um, is a career trajectory that Motley Crue should have had, but didn't, because you have those first two, this killer first two Motley Crue albums, Too Fast for Love and Shout of the Devil. And I know they're different bands, but like they're similar, like in some ways, like this sleaze metal, heavy metal, like shock rock kind of combination that they were both in a band together, Blackie and Nikki Sixx and stuff. So yeah, I think Wasp's career is what Motley Crue should have been, but I don't know if I want to do a separate video about that, but like they just kept challenging themselves, and they never went, soft like on Theater of Pain, and you have Dr. Feelgood, and I mean Girls, Girls, Girls kind of cool, and there's good songs interspersed between all those albums, but nothing like, the Headless Children or fucking like, and I know, Wasp had their disappointing album. What was the third one called? God, what was the third one? I know The Last Command's the second one. God damn it. Can't remember. But yeah, their third album was kind of disappointing. Then the Headless Children just like, punch you in the face and then some. It was awesome, epic album. Then they did the Crimson Idol and all that stuff. I mean, I think that's like the apex of creativity of Blackie Lawless. He just like decided not to go the more commercial route that Nikki Sixx did. And they're different people, but I just think like Wasp is what Motley Crue should have been. That's how I see it. Even though I love the first two Motley Crue, and I even like the self-titled album, the Karabi album. It's pretty good. I don't like it as much as people have like said. It's kind of has a underrated like cult following now. Kind of like a lot of albums of those period. I actually like Kiss's Carnival of Souls more. I know that sounds really weird. I don't know. I probably should give it another chance. I just kind of got bored by the Motley Crue self-titled one. The drums, Tommy Lee is an underrated drummer. If he would have, that's another thing. Like Tommy Lee should have like done more cool stuff. He had some chops, at least back in the day. I don't know about now, but he had kind of a cool style and chops, and it could have done more like actual like good like. I'm not saying he could have done like some prog fusion album or something like with Steve Stevens or something. I'm just like, it just could have done a lot more. A lot of those guys just underrated potential. It's just like they do these ultra cheesy ass commercial albums. Like Dr. Feelgood. I mean, I like some of the songs, but And then I got, I don't know. I mean, I prefer Motley Crue as this like dangerous like. Maybe they're satanic, maybe they're not, like band from the mid 80s. Like I prefer that Motley Crue over like the Dr. Feelgood, like kind of sleazy but also clean, kind of like boring fucking band. I mean, I don't know. I just prefer that. I love the first two Motley Crue albums. But anyways, that's what I had to say about like totally off a tangent from 9/11 to Motley Crue. But that's what I had to say about the virus stuff. Like it was maybe like it was a premonition of like this weird like constriction, this And I don't see, if you look at astrology and prophecy and all this stuff and dreams and all this shit, it doesn't necessarily mean like I know there's some people that are probably pretty skeptical about this being called a pandemic, or the death rate, or how they count deaths and all this stuff. But like, when we're interpreting things, it could come from a very, there's layers, there's a spectrum, there's different points of view. So, like, for example, feeling constrained. I mean, you can say, well, that's like because you're scared of the virus and dying and all this stuff. No, or it's just maybe it's all the talk of death. Maybe it's the lockdowns, feeling constrained. All these things could be interpreted different ways. That's why I've been watching a bunch of different astrologers on YouTube. Like, they're predicting this. I guess with regards to Jupiter, Saturn, Pluto. Well, I think it's leaving Pluto. Thank God. I think that's part of the reason why we've had all this bad stuff, according to astrology, at least. The conjunction with Jupiter, Saturn, Aquarius, and Neptune. I guess it's going to happen December 21st. I think it's Neptune. I'd have to look that up. But they're all doing these videos. They're like, "Oh, this is going to happen. A new age of," and it's like, you can interpret it a lot of different ways. Like, there's Gordon White of Ruin Soup. He says, "Oh, it's the track and trace. All this stuff that's going to happen. This more dystopian cyberpunk society." And there's other people that's like, "Oh, it's new hope for people, and and all this stuff, and people will be more individualistic, or not individualistic. They'll be more humanitarian, but also individualistic at the same time. If that could even happen, I don't know. All this stuff." So it was like all these different varying interpretations of the astrology that's happening. Now, one of the things that did kind of get to me, though, was how Austin Kopek on Rune Soup, he was on Rune Soup because he's good friends with Gordon White. He talks about how some of the conjunctions before or earlier this year that didn't happen for, some of them didn't happen for many years. And, it was like 20-year cycle, it was a 10-year cycle, 20-year cycle, like 200-year cycle and 800-year cycle. I think they all conjuncted this year. Like, all these crazy things happened this year astrologically. They were predicting this. Like, there were people predicting stuff. Even 3 years ago, I watched on Lada Dunsheva's channel. She did this podcast with this guy that I sub to as well. Fuck, I'd have to look up his name. I just can't. I've been watching. Pardon me. I've been watching so many of these things. I can't even keep track. So, pardon if I don't remember everybody's name. But he actually subbed to my channel. I don't know if he's still subbed or not. But they did this podcast that was like, they were basically like, if you read between the lines, he was predicting lockdowns. Like, 2020, there will be these constraints and all this restrictions of governments will do this and that because of this thing that will happen. And it was pretty crazy. Now, of course, our world has fluctuated between authoritarianism and libertarianism forever. I mean, that's just what happens. So if someone could like maybe make the statement that, oh well, what would happen anyways, they're not predicting anything, people are skeptics or whatever. But some people want to be skeptical about everything. That's fine. I accept that. I get that point of view. But it was pretty interesting. So yeah, so I think, anyways, what I was going to say is that, like, this whole conjunction that happened this year, a lot of people associate with lockdowns. The Capricorn being like the more conservative, and not conservative politically per se, but like conservative, like institutions and like governments and like all this stuff. And Pluto being about like the worst aspects of all this stuff. And then Saturn being about constrictions or the same thing. And then Jupiter expanding that whole thing to be more hugely out of proportion almost, because Jupiter is a big planet. So it was really interesting to see that. So I think getting out of Capricorn, even though the irony is the Vedic astrology is we're going into Capricorn because they're like one behind or whatever with the signs. I don't even know about all that. Maybe it's just like different sides of the world or something. Who knows? So yeah, so you can expect, like, I guess like on Rune Soup, they said that end of December through January, January/February, there will be lessening of restrictions. Though Gordon White, who's the host of that podcast, thinks there's going to be more, maybe less restrictions, but more requirements, like IDs, the people are talking about the identification, the immunity passes and all that stuff. He's scared of that. Gordon White is. I don't know if Austin is scared of that. Austin Kapak, or however you, Kopic. Austin Kopic. I think that's how to pronounce his name. I don't know if he's as scared of that or not. We'll find out, because there's another episode coming out with him in about 6 + 6 12 days. So 12 days there will be another podcast with those two in doing the predictions for 2021. That's going to be fucking great. I mean, if I can listen live, I will, because that's fascinating stuff to me. And I'm actually subscribed to Rune Soup. I decided to take the plunge. It's $10 a month. You can't really get any better with that website, because like he has all these courses on magic and sigils and all this stuff and all this other stuff, and intention boards. You can write your intention and other people will focus on it. Just all this crazy stuff on it. It was really cool. He has a lot of he comes from the more skeptical side about the virus stuff. I'll admit it, And some of the stuff he says I agree with. A lot of it, actually. Some of it I don't, So Austin, in that podcast from mid-July, I think it was, or early July, or maybe it was June, on Rune Soup, making the predictions for the second half of 2020. He said by December, January, a lot of things are going to start, maybe December, January, February, things are going to start to, clear up with the virus stuff. He didn't say why. He said that restrictions will be lessened. We'll get back to, through the first quarter. That's what he said. We'll get back to, you could say, well, the vaccine was predicted to come out that way, whatever. But, it was at that time, we didn't know what the fuck was going on. So he predicts that. So I'm going to make a prediction in this video, and it's going to be kind of controversial. So I think February, March, we're going to see the end of the pandemic, February/March. Now, that could be seen from an epidemiological standpoint, because, like, if you look at, so for one thing, comparing this to Spanish flu is very disingenuous. Okay, I'm just going to say this. Now, as far as, because it's not on this, even not close to the scale of Spanish flu. I mean, they had wheelbarrows of bodies, like, on the street, You talk about refrigerator trucks at some hospitals, whatever. But you had like wheelbarrows and stuff all over the place of dead bodies and stuff. It was a huge, way beyond the scale, especially for population back then. If you look at the population compared to now, the scale is completely, off the charts comparatively. And there have been some pandemics like the 57 and 58 pandemic and 68 pandemics, flu pandemics that killed millions of people. They did. I mean, it's on Wikipedia. This is estimated to kill 2 to 4 million people. The 68 pandemic, which lasted until like 70 or 71 or 72 or something like that. I think it was still around in 71. So the scale of things back then, if you look just the population, may be somewhat comparable, and that's what Francois Ballou, Ballous, like he's an epidemiologist or geneticist that has studied the virus, the genome actually. He's like part of a team that's studying that. So he said it's probably comparable to that mortality rate, which really doesn't really bode well for lockdowns and masks, because, back then there were no lockdowns or masks. And if it's comparable, then what are we doing all this for, in a way? And I don't know if it'll end up being seen as comparable to those pandemics, but so far that's what he said. Maybe, I think he says it's a little more, it is worse, but not in like a, not by multitudes or something like that. I forgot what he's on Twitter, which I'm taking a break from as well. But like the astrological charts of the cases and hospitalizations. There's actually Archetypical Explorer and Chris Brennan did another, been doing some other tweets lately with the hospitalizations and deaths and stuff. And those conjunctions, like the Jupiter, Pluto, Saturn conjunction in Capricorn that happened it happened 3 times in 2020. One time it was just Saturn and Pluto. That was the January 12th one, I think. It was starting to feel, yeah, shit, that fucking month was weird. I'm just saying. Like, but I don't know if it's related to that. See, I'm talking about all this crazy astrological shit. I don't know. I've just been kind of obsessed with the last few months. It doesn't mean like that's going to last. Like, I'm not, a couple months from now, I could not give a fuck less. Who knows? But because I just get into things for a while and obsess about them and stuff. So I'm a Capricorn moon, so maybe that's what the whole thing was about. Like, that rules the emotions of a person. So, wow, January was fucked up. And then you had all those other times. And there was some certain other things that happened in my life around those times. Like, November 12th is like when I started to, like, this sounds really crazy, but like, I started to be like, I shouldn't be on social media. I should just hide from all that garbage. It's just been polluting my life, and then a couple of days later, I'm like, I announced on Facebook, well, maybe about a week later, a little over a week later, I was like, I was on Facebook. I was like, it's the third time this year, but I'm going to quit. I'm going to quit Facebook for a while, and I haven't exactly quit Facebook because I'm like posting like some pictures of me on there once in a while, or like I'm going to post a lot of my music on there. But other than that, I'm not going to go on there. I'm just going to be like, once in a while, I'll put a new picture of me or check my email every couple weeks or something, on their messenger stuff, So that's how I felt in November. And I also had those 2 times around June, late June, early July, and also it was back in March, or it was January. And then through January and February, I was off of there. And then, because after the breakup, and then I got back on there late March, early April, and then I quit. I don't know. Never mind. I don't know if that's related, but it's like these 3 times in a year kind of thing. This pattern that happened this year was like kind of interesting to think about. Like these 3 times, these 3 conjunctions, these 3 different waves or whatever you want to call it of like the virus. Just do my Rufus McDoofus voice when I say that word. So it was really weird, but yeah, it's been a fuck of a year, not a good fuck either, a good fuck. It's been a shitty year. It has been bad. Glad to see it's going to be over. Now as far as all this astrological stuff, I'm holding out hope for it. I'm hoping for it, I'm hoping that this is heralding a new dawn of whatever, it's like, I mean, what else do we have? I mean, we can read A Course of Miracles every day, or, or pray or do affirmations, and all that stuff, has its place, of course. And I haven't been following through on that because I want to get this fucking apartment nice before I get back into all that. Because I just want to, this project is just too much, overwhelming project right now to fix up all this stuff. But once I do, I'm going to get back into all my new agey kind of stuff, daily rituals / morning rituals, that I do. But anyways, that we can hold out hope or we can have feel hope that next year will be different than this year. And that's, because it was the worst. It was the worst. I felt the worst. I'll just say that. Like February was the worst. I mean, I was looking up looking up some things I shouldn't talk about on here, but ways to die, pretty much. I was really broken up over everything, because of the breakup and just everything that was going on in my life. Plus at my job, it was getting worse too, which I got, culminated in what is going on now, where I'm essentially doing my old job, even though I got promoted. I'm essentially doing the job that I got promoted to get out of. So a lot of stuff was just hitting me all at once. So I was like, oh, is there a way out? You know, I was like Googling ways to, you know, suicide methods and stuff for, you know, a couple times. I did, I'll admit it. You know, I was contemplating it in February, and then March, I just started to be like a little different, you know. But this year was supposed to be a different kind of year because, you know, at that point, and I don't know if it was because at some point in February, I just was like, oh, you know, I'm going to live my life and blah, blah, blah. I'm going to try. And I was hooked, you know, I was talking to the singer and we were jamming a little bit. And it was just like, yeah, this year is I decided I'm going to turn this around and this is going to be the greatest year of my life and all this stuff. And like, almost sounds kind of bipolar or something, but it's true. Like, I was just like, fuck it. I want to do the best I can in life, you know, and just like turn things around. And this year I was like really holding on hope, or, you know, holding on to the hope that this year would have been like great. Cause I was like gung ho about everything pretty much, like the band idea and like even some business stuff, which I'm working on with my friend right now. Like things had turned around. Like I got really almost nearly suicidally depressed in February, but things had turned around in March, and I was starting to look, things were starting to look up. And then lo and behold, the pandemic hits and everything goes to shit. And then, you know, all these things came crashing down. Now, maybe 2021 will be what I hoped 2020 would be. I don't know, but I didn't really take advantage of it enough in a way, you know. But when you're living in filth, it's hard to take advantage of things. No, I'm just being an asshole. Which is going to change too, because I have to get things in order, you know. So that was what happened. And then in March, in April, I got into all this more new age kind of stuff. And, you know, actually I was already getting into it because I was so depressed. I was looking for any answer in February. So I started to watch all these manifestation things slowly. And, you know, a lot of it was about getting your ex back and all this stuff. I'll admit it, you know, I won't lie. Which, yeah, it's not something that I'm proud of completely, but, you know, I did get into a lot of that stuff. And at this point in time, I'm looking forward to 2021, you know. Got a new place, you know, actually looks kind of cool. Behind me, I think it looks kind of neat. You know, there's some disorganization with some of the stuff, but, you know, you have those Metallica records and like you have this, what else we have here? Oh, those Misfits things up there, and then like Kiss, you know, and then I'm not going to show the rest of the place because it looks like total shit. But right now, oh yeah, I know I'm overdue for my payment. Whatever. Have a lot of music equipment, and, you know, I just have a lot of things I'm going to be doing, you know, in the next few months even. And most people I know and I have remained healthy throughout this whole thing, you know. And I don't know what that means, but I don't know if it's going to last or not, but who knows, you know. But really, I mean, I take vitamin D every day, you know. I mean, it's like I take a lot of stuff actually, which I will stop eventually once. I'm not going to stop all of it, but I'm going to stop a lot of it once things do get down to a reasonable level with the virus. I'll admit it. It's kind of like my way of like staving off me being in that system that I don't want to be in with all that. I just don't want to get tested. I don't want to become part of this, like, as they call them, reality transurfing, which is an interesting book I think I bought in February as well. They call it pendulums, and it's like these idea formations in the public consciousness that, you know, people are committed to and, you know, obsessed with or whatever. So I really want to, you know, stay away from that as much as possible. So by doing preventative measures, I think people don't understand I got a dislike on my drug video. I think I know what it was, but I think by doing preventative measures on the virus, in the first place, which all these medical studies say, taking vitamin D, well, all those other things, if I'm able to stave it off, then we can get over the hump of the cases going down and people getting out of the public consciousness as much and people calming the fuck down about all these things. I mean, are airlines going to require you are vaccinated before you fly? I mean, like I said, I think it might be an overseas, if you fly overseas, you might require it, but I don't know if they're going to do that in America domestically. So enough people are already at an uproar. Like the Ticketmaster thing, they backed down, They were ratioed on Twitter. I was part of that. I was like, no, this is fucking bullshit, man. And they didn't really back down completely. It was more like, well, it depends on the localized regional guidelines that if we do that or not. They kind of wussed out on it, though. They didn't, they were going to do it. Like, it sounded like, it could have been nationwide, but now they're just like, oh, we'll do it. It depends on the guidelines of the locality or whatever. Like in Florida, you'll be able to go to a show without a COVID hall pass or, whatever. But in Massachusetts, you won't or something. I don't know what's going to fucking happen. I don't know what's going to happen with all that. I mean, even Bill Gates came out against mandatory vaccinations the other day, which was kind of a shock in a way. But maybe, I don't know. People have different philosophies. I think people are complicated, I think the conspiracy theorists have it wrong because they don't have it wrong like the actions that are taken necessarily or, the things that happen, but they have it wrong like by simplifying human beings too much, like putting them, they kind of do what normies do. It's just the inverse version of it. It's like normies will say, oh my God, Trump supporters are spreading the virus, blah, 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 putting people in boxes and classifications and categories. But like from the other direction is conspiracy theorists, And I think conspiracy theorists are needed in society. I think they play a role because they can put a mirror back to how cartoonishly devious and like things seem to the general public, and that it's holding truth to power to some extent, and it's putting a mirror up, even if the mirror is a caricature, even if the mirror is just is only a couple of colors, like it's still like it's black and white or something, the mirror that the conspiracy theorists hold up. Even if that's the case, and it's cartoonish and it's all exaggerated and shit, even if that's the case, it's like a person in power will look at this mirror called a conspiracy theory or conspiracy theorists, and be like, oh, this is how I look to the general public, and this is what people are saying that we're trying to do. Oh my God, they'll panic. I mean, hopefully they panic and they start to like, they know they can't implement a lot of this stuff. Even if it was not from the same intention that the conspiracy theorists said, or that's what they were intending. I'm just saying that's the role. I don't know if that's happening with this stuff, but like, that's the role of conspiracy theorists, I think, is to put a mirror to society and some of the more outlandish things that the elites do. Even if it's not true, even if conspiracy theorists are often grifters, which they are, it still is a necessary part of our society. I think they play a role in our society is what I'm saying. So that's what I have to say about that. As far as all these conspiracy theories like the Great Reset and all this stuff, and I just don't know. I can't answer that. Where's my Great Reset book? Yeah. No, that's not it, I don't think. Is that my Great Reset book? Yeah. So I don't know what's going to happen with all this stuff, and I'm hoping that civil liberties are taken into account. I'm hoping that we don't dehumanize each other as much. I've done some of that myself. I'm like, oh, these coronatarians around, they look stupid in masks. I've done that myself. I've dehumanized a lot of people myself. I'm making fun of this shit. I mean, Rufus McDoofus serves a purpose, but Rufus McDoofus's life is not going to last too much longer. the satirical character that I play, and he's gonna die of the virus, even though he wore a mask in his own home and never left since March. That's what's gonna happen to him. That's his celebratory death. Is he wore a mask and a hazmat suit in his house, and he got it from a Amazon package that had Jeff Bezos's autobiography in it, and he was like all excited, and the Great Reset book too in the package. And that's what's going to happen to him. He got the virus from that, even though that doesn't really happen too often. I'm sure the surface transmission is rare, if not even possible sometimes, somewhat. Even though there's still commercials on the radio about, we fully cleaned the new cars and disinfected, we're COVID compliant. Ugh. It's like, well, that doesn't happen too often. What the fuck, So I don't know. So Rufus McDoofus is going to be a 4 or 5 month old person that dies, because I'm not going to do any more videos after the next one, probably. I've done enough videos about that stuff. But yeah, I mean, I'm going to probably do some I don't know. I mean, it's difficult to live in these days, but I don't know. I think people's good. I'm an optimist. Someone told me that a couple months ago. A family member told me that I'm an optimist, and I think that she was right, because, and people may not like that. Some contrarians may not like the fact that that's the case with me, or people don't want to face that the worst possible outcome may not happen. I mean, let's look at conspiracy culture, like Alex Jones. He was predicting FEMA camps by 2012 or 20 whatever. Everybody would be in a FEMA camp for Endgame or whatever. The New World Order. It's like, well, you could say, well, he prevented it because he talked about it so much, and it's just like, I don't know. He said people were at the troops were at the border during Y2K. I mean, his whole thing's been non-credible for a long time. Of course, a broken clock is right twice a day, and oftentimes Alex Jones was right. He was a broken clock that was right maybe a couple times, or 4 or 5 times a day, but still he was a broken clock, as a lot of those people are. I own 2 huge David Icke books, which I don't know. I was looking at the other day. I'm like, is he an anti-Semite? He probably is, in a certain way, because there's this huge Jewish star on the cover. Like, I know it's the Israeli flag, but it's just like, it's weird. Theosophists probably called the Jewish people reptilians, probably. I don't know the whole history of that. There's a lot of stuff about that, back in the day. That was kind of part of the stereotype. So who knows? I don't hate everything David Icke has done or said, but it's bizarre that I do own 2 of the books, but I own a lot of L. Ron Hubbard books too, actually. So I own a lot of weird stuff. I like weird books. That's what I mean. I have fucking enough books to last an apocalypse, which we're in right now, the dystopia 2020. So yeah. So a lot of the predictions of these astrologers have seemed to come true. I've noticed. So, and you could say, oh, well, it was bound to happen anyways, but they didn't get it. Like, they got it really right a lot of the time. Like, really, some of the stuff. Some of the like, what was it with the fires? There was some stuff. It was a really strange year with all these predictions coming true. And maybe it's an interpretation of the prediction, but either way, it was just really weird. So I have hope that getting out of this crisis, or getting out of this trap. I like Austin Kopek's term about 2020 being a trap. Like, I think he had a dream about it. Like, he said there was a lot of traps in 2020, but he's like, he had a dream and said 2020 is a trap. So, we got about how many days do we have till this shit's over? Well, you could say December 21st. Let's just say that for a second. Oh, is my calendar not working? What's wrong with my damn computer? Oh my God. It's already being weird. Oh yeah, gotta get that hard drive fixed today. I have my old Da Vinci theme on there. That's what that noise was. Oh, I can't see the calendar. We got less than 30 days till the end of 2020, and it's going to be interesting to see what happens in the next couple weeks. Even, I mean, they're talking about, all this stuff, as far as all these things. It's like, God damn it. Why can't I see the calendar? It's not showing me the calendar. I don't know why it isn't. That's weird. Why isn't it showing me the calendar, motherfucker? Yeah. So I mean, I think we got a little while to go till this is over. I think we're gonna breathe a sigh of relief January 1st. I mean, even if this has nothing to do with astrology or anything real, let's just say the fact that it's not going to say 2020 on the fucking calendar is going to unconsciously make people think, oh, even if it's, and I think in a way that's going to align things better in the world and with humanity. I think it's this unconscious thing that has become, the collective unconscious has associated 2020 with this fucking horrible year. And obviously I didn't explain everything why this is a horrible year for me, because there's some things that I do just want to keep private right now, but there were some really bad things that happened this year other than that too. So, but yeah, so I think people will just be like, I think people will be like kind of just like grateful that it's over and just like relieved, and that'll start influencing people on an unconscious level. And the media may still say like everything's bad, we're still in this crisis, and but I think overall people will just be like, it's over, man. Act as if, in a way. It's just like this whole thing's over. I mean, I'm not saying that everything's over associated with it. I'm just saying that it's on its last legs. I truly believe that. From both, you can look at it from like the 2 or 3 waves, or maybe 4 waves of the Spanish flu, and how they astrologically aligned with Pluto or whatever. And, all these people are saying that this is like similar to that astrologically. And there's these 3 peak things, and then it goes down in the middle of January. Of course, the case, if you really want to believe in that, February, because it lags 2 weeks, like those graphs, it lags about 2 or 3 weeks. Then by February, it's over. And, you could say it's a vaccine, you could say it's herd immunity, because in both, maybe both. See, I think it's probably going to be both. I think there's going to be, some herd immunity because people do get reinfected. I don't know what the science is right now, because it changes every fucking day or week. They say this and they say that. But I think it'll be over. Truly. I think by March of next year, it'll be over. Now, what happens after is anyone's guess, and people have been saying a lot of different stuff. I'm hoping that we don't live under some technocratic, totalitarian, authoritarian state, because I will resist that. Will I get a vaccine? Probably not. I wouldn't get the vaccine unless it was tested for a couple of years. Now, if I did get a vaccine, it would definitely be the AstraZeneca Oxford one, because it seems like that is an older technology that is not, and we may be anti-vax watching this or whatever, but I trust I trust the science that normal vaccines, and I'm not sure about this, please correct me if I'm wrong. Normal vaccines, science is way more trustworthy, and people already have a hard enough time with vaccines in general, because there is a lot of stuff that sometimes is questionable. But I trust the old science over the new science as far as vaccines go, because I just don't want to take that chance. So if the AstraZeneca one is the one that, if I do take a vaccine, it's going to be that one, because if that's the normal one. I mean, I'm not totally certain about the science. I've read some things they were kind of like, well, maybe it isn't like the old science. As far as I know, John Campbell and some other people have said that that's the way of, the vaccines have been made that way before and are fine. And of course, fine is definition, there's different definitions of fine, there's different definitions of, this vaccine thing. There's different people have different beliefs, but to me, the science that's already there, I would prefer, I feel more comfortable taking that over taking any kind of experimental RNA vaccine, which, why did they do all these vaccines all at once if it doesn't make sense? Actually, that kind of pokes a hole in the conspiracy things. Like, well, they have different vaccines at different companies, competing universities all around the world. And why is that the number of the beast? If anything, the RNA one would be the number of the beast, because that's the scary one. But maybe there's a certain amount of people that will take that one, that, I don't know, maybe they are trying to weed out the population. Maybe they are trying to make people sterile. And only the RNA one will do that. And there'll be certain regions that have this one and don't have this one. I don't fucking know. I can't really tell you. I know that they have a harder problem with the more expensive RNA vaccine, storing it and transporting it to the AstraZeneca one, because the AstraZeneca one's old school technology. So the whole thing, and I'll conclude with this end of this video with this statement. The whole thing with the vaccine being mandatory, it's really tricky. To me, I'm going to try to hold out as much as possible, as long as possible, Now, I do have goals in life, Some people might not. Some people have it better than me in certain areas of life, and they've done more stuff, and they've been doing more stuff, and they don't have a regret of not being able to do that stuff if there's not if there is a mandate. To me, I'm going to kind of take the middle road. I'm not going to be like, for example, if my company I work for requires me to take the vaccine, if they tell me I have to go back in the office, I'm going to tell them no. I'm going to say I want to see at least 6 more months of testing of these vaccines. I want to see what happens. Now, let's say a year goes by, and I have a band together of my live band for my band, and I'm required, or let's say 2 years go by, and I have a band together, and we want to play Wacken or something, or a record company interested in a deal. The only way you can play Wacken is if you get this fucking immunity pass. Then I'll be kind of forced to reevaluate that decision and be like, well, we've had a couple of years, and so this result happened with this one, and this happened with this one, and I'll be forced to choose at that point. But right now, like for the foreseeable future, I want to see what happens with it first. I'm not an anti-vaxxer. I think anti-vaxxers have been stigmatized for having reasonable questions about what's in, as far as big pharma, what big pharma pushes in general. So I have sympathized with a lot of the anti-vax movement because of that. Of course, they exaggerate things, and they have a lot of conspiracy theories and ideas that are not realistic. But at the same time, I sympathize with their skepticism of big pharma and drug companies, which is the truth, because who wouldn't be? The irony is, like, a lot of the left used to be more on the side of anti-vax, and then it kind of flipped around in the last 10, 15 years. Like, it was like the Green Party people would be like, oh, the vax, the big corporations, big pharma. And maybe I'll be doing a video about that, because not about that particularly, but about how the left, or a lot of the left, the mainstream left, has become more like the right and vice versa. And I don't think there's a great realignment happening. I think Kyle Kalinske says, oh, that's bullshit. There's no, the signs of a realignment with the parties, there's some small signs of that, but it may not be happening. But there have been some things flipped around, which is pretty interesting. But no, that's my answer to whether or not I'll take the vaccine. I'm going to try to hold out as long as possible. That's my answer. As long as I can realistically live without taking a vaccine. Now, I like concerts and I like doing things. That's just the way. That's what I believe in. So if down the road, they require it, I may, do it, but I want to hold out as long as possible first and see what happens with everything. That's my answer. And some people will be like, no, never take it, never, forever. It's like, I have a life to live. I have goals and dreams. That's a fact. And if there is some grand scheme with a vaccine, we'll know soon enough. That's the thing. If it's not just about big pharma influencing the World Health Organization and then declaring the pandemic and then everybody becoming hysterical about it and then vaccine companies jump in, if it's not some big money-making scheme only, if it's actually about some great reset and all this stuff, we'll find out in the next, even the next 6 months, we'll find out about that probably. Now, a lot of stuff has long-term effects over years, over decades, and that's the scary thing about it. That's the scarier part about it than anything else. Because if it's like some instant sterilization method or something, I think we'd probably find out about that pretty soon. Do I believe that it is? I don't know. Like I said, I'm an agnostic as far as some of these conspiracy theories go. I think they're interesting. I think they're necessary to some extent. I think conspiracy theories are necessary to push society forward. You have to take them in with a grain of salt. And people say conspiracy theories are toxic and conspiracy theories are horrible and they push bad political ideas and all this stuff. Well, it's kind of a check and balance, in my opinion. And the more they push back, the more the powers that be and which I'm going to get that brass knuckle in their face. The more the powers that be push back on conspiracy stuff and censor them and stuff, the worse it gets. So it's kind of a self-perpetuating cycle, isn't it? Sorry, I got the camera. So that's what I have to say about conspiracy theories and my opinions about whether or not to take the shot. Resist as long as possible. See if there's alternatives. See if there's alternatives to taking it. Like religious exemptions. See if this. Why doesn't it be based on cases? Like if there's 0 cases for like a month somewhere, then why would there be a mandatory requirement to take it? It's like, the stuff like that. These questions are unanswered, right? So we're just going to have to wait and see, Will I take it? I don't know. That's my answer. And no for the foreseeable future. No, like at least until like when we're kind of seeing what is going to happen next year. And then if my job tells me in order to come back to the call center that I have to take it, I will question that. Because to me, it doesn't make sense if everybody else is vaccinated. If there's one person that doesn't take it, I mean, what's the big deal? Doesn't really make a lot of sense. A lot of this talk, even from the conspiracy theorists don't make sense. Because I realized that reading this article about people that were opposed to mandatory vaccines, which included people that were not like Bill Gates. Like, it was weird. It was like kind of weird reading his take on it. I'm not saying he's not an evil fuck or anything. I'm just saying, like, there could be other reasons why people want things to be not mandatory. Like, they think there'll be too much pushback, and they think people won't take it because it's mandatory. Of course, like that's a good argument. So, and if there's societal, corporate kind of things that happen, like it's not required by law, but everybody is requiring you to do this or that, companies and all this stuff. There's really no difference between that and a mandatory vaccine. Now, that's almost comparable to big tech censorship. Like, is it censorship? Well, it's pretty much censorship. It's pretty close. It's close enough, So hopefully people will push back like they did with Ticketmaster. And hopefully there will be rational, sane people in the health part of health departments of government to say, well, we have cases at there's 1 case a day in Iowa or something, like we don't, and then
they're mild cases now, or it's evolved, or it's mutated into this mild virus now, and who cares? It's like stuff like that could happen, and and we could be out in the clear and we just like not think about it. But of course, knowing humans, they like to take control and assert their power and be total hypocrites about it a lot of times, of course. Um, but we'll see. It's a wait and see for me. But people might not like the fact that I am uh, on the fence about the vaccine thing. I don't think I'm really on the fence. I'm just more scientific about it, like, and selfish, honestly. Oh wow, Jimmy Dore just did a video. It looks pretty interesting. Um, so it's it just depends on what happens. Like I said, I'm gonna resist as long as possible, as long as I can. Um, I may already be immune to it. I mean, there's people that I know have been out among many new hundreds of people, and they never knew anybody that got the virus, and they never got the virus, and they may have been sick in January, February, March, and maybe there is some long-term immunity. There's people I know like that, and I'm a person that still hangs out with people, and I haven't been sick since January. I mean, I had some like weird allergy stuff over the summer, but it's just like a dusty ass fucking attic is gonna do that to you. Um, so I don't know. I mean, I could get sick today, could get sick tomorrow. I could get sick anytime. Anybody can do it. Anything can happen. But it's just kind of a clusterfuck. And I don't know. And am I betraying my videos by saying that there's a possibility that I'll get a vaccine? Possibly. I don't know. You know, I just want to live my life. I have goals. I want to form this company that I'm forming with my friend. I want to get my band together. I want to play shows. I want to do open mics, including comedy. I want to date and be able to go places. I want to be able to go to Europe. I want to be able to get married and have children. I want to do all this stuff. That's just a fact. I just have goals. And maybe, I'm following the new world order if I get the vax or whatever the fuck. Well, fuck you, You don't know the pain of not living my life has done, You got to have some empathy, for fuck's sake, you know. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm going to get it tomorrow or even the next day, because I want to see more testing of the vaccines. I don't want to just like not, or I just don't want to take it right away. Of course not, because it's just like, what the fuck. And if they don't require it, if there's no like social shaming because you're not taking it, and if there's stuff like that, if they actually follow common sense and say, oh, the cases are nil to none, or nothing, or hardly anything, then maybe they'll relax, hopefully, and then hopefully there's no conspiracy going on with this, and we'll be back to a normal that is not new, of course. But international flights, I think they're going to do that. I think a lot of the companies are going to do that, and some countries will do that, at least for a while. I don't know if it's going to be forever, but I think I foresee that. I don't foresee necessarily you be having to go to the grocery store and show a vaccine pass. I don't think I see that happening. I just don't. There's too many people in the country, in the United States particularly, that wouldn't go for that. And it's a pretty have a very paranoid, but rightfully so, populace in America, whether it be left or right. So I don't think there's going to be a mandatory vaccine. It's like even Biden was like backing down on the mask mandate, which was a surprise. It's like, well, I'm just going to tell people to do it, and we all want to work together. It's like that was after he was elected. Of course, I don't know. I haven't investigated all the election stuff. By the way, I've been trying to. I watch Six and Hammer a lot, but I don't know all the details on that, so I'm not going to say whether or not I believe that there's some election meddling going on. I would say, of course, there is, because there always is. That would be my answer. That's all I answered. And I'm mad enough at the Democratic Party for what they did to Bernie and the Green Party, even though Bernie kind of took it in the ass from the Democrats. So that's what I got to say about that. So it's getting late. I'm going to try to finish this damn disaster piece called My Apartment today. Hopefully I will, or get it really under control. And I will see you soon.